Welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. My name is Amber Larkins, published photographer, storytelling expert, visual artist, entrepreneur, speaker, and coach. This podcast was born from one question: how do I get inspiring stories of triumph out to the people who need to hear them the most? Come with me, enter my world, where lives are getting changed, heroes are getting developed, and greatness is being achieved. All right, welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. I am Amber Larkins, your host, and today I have with me a very special guest and friend. This is Danielle Dyer. She goes by Dani D. She runs a powerful fitness business in Nashville. I actually met her through doing some photography work, and actually I think we met through the Transformation Through Trauma. But Dani, nonetheless, Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I want to talk a little bit about Dani. She is 29 years old. She runs a successful body positive training business. She has her own podcast as well. Love Your Body. Is that it's Love Your Body, right? She's certified personal trainer, works with women of all shapes and sizes, and teaches them not only fitness, but how to truly love themselves throughout. And such an inspiration in the community, such an inspiration with all the women that she works with. The women that I've had contact with that have worked with Dani says nothing but amazing things. So I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that so much, Amber. I hear only good things about you. You have always taken care of all my people that, are in the fitness industry, and just, all these women trying to love themselves more. And you're a great advocate for that just as well.
Oh, thank you, girl. So what kind of brings us here today is, like I said, Dani did a transformation through trauma session with me when we were just kind of newly starting out, doing some testing around the whole transformation through trauma movement. We become friends through that. And she has a powerful story, which was funny because we can get into this. I'm going to let her tell it, but her story was not finished when we shot it. Like, there was more after her story. Tell us a little bit, Dani, if you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, you can, or if you want to jump right into kind of your thoughts on everything.
Yeah. So, born and raised in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I now live in Nashville. When we did the transformation, through trauma project, I was looking for any outlet because at that time I did not have my podcast. I was just training people, and this was in 2020. So we just went through pandemic. I was struggling with keeping, at the time, my boyfriend alive. It was a constant, my phone is buzzing. My phone's on me at all times. Like, where is he at? What is he doing? Things like that. And it was such I was in a constant state of fight or flight. Okay. I had never had a boyfriend before. I think sometimes people forget that when I tell my story. I dated and stuff like that, but never had introduced to the parents, never whatever. So this was a big deal. And I dated him for about, I guess it was 8 months. And then I found out, some hard things. Like, I found out that he was married, cause he had told me he was separated, they were going through divorce, all this stuff, whatever. He actually originally told me he was divorced and then backtracked to say separated. But, so found that out. He had a child. There were so many things that just kept unfolding at slowly, and just hit me, and I did not find out until he was in the hospital. And then, so we're thinking something happened. We're both strong men, strong women competitors. And so it was one of those things where when all that happened, I'm like, who knew? And no one knew. My best friend didn't know. He fooled everyone. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm just some dumb, young girl out here or whatever. You know what I mean? It was very I was just very taken back by everything. And, I loved him, and I did not know how to let that go. And he did not foresee a life without me. And it was one of those things where he was not going to leave me alone. So every time I would try to push away or whatever, especially during COVID, I'm at home, virtual training, trying to continue grinding before I move into Connect Nashville, which that had been put on hold as a body positive influencer. Meanwhile, trying to help these women feel empowered while I'm going through such trauma. Right. And so it was one of those things, like, I did everything I could to keep him away, block him, all the things, that, you're told, whatever. But it would be like he would come, like, once I would start working again and whatever, he would come by my work. Like, there's just a lot of things to it that I don't think people understood. So I was in a constant state of like, what am I doing? Where am I going? How is everything going? Meanwhile, I'm putting myself on billboards. I'm like doing all these amazing things. I'm the only female influencer at this build high rise. Like, there's so many positives happening. But meanwhile, it's like I couldn't really talk to anybody about what was going on because I was advised by friends at the time that, like, hey, it's going to make your business look bad. Right.
Mm.
Even though I was the one that these things happened to. Does that make sense? Because I
Mhm.
continue to help, continue to stay around, continue to try to keep them alive and everything like that. So it just was such a tough, I was pulled in so many different directions. So that's why when we connected and everything, I was like, man, that would be awesome to be like, I am done. Like, I am good with this. Like, let's get this, whatever, and feel supported. And I remember literally like asking him for his shirt and that I wore in those pictures. And I was like, this is like my like goodbye to you kind of thing, whatever. But then, it was just he was a manipulator, a narcissist, whatever. But I mean, again, I loved him, everything like that. But yeah, it just wasn't going to stop. And so, anyway, so when all that happened, when we did our thing, we did the same. I think that day we filmed like the after, like feeling like successful, whatever. And I could channel everything that was going on in my business life and I could channel that and feel good about it and feel like, yeah, Danny D, whatever. But then over here, Danielle was going through like the hardest time in her life at the time, right? Not so it was only I think a few months after. I think it's literally a couple months later, like he passed away. And he was an addict, and that was another thing that he hid from everyone, and people didn't know and stuff like that. So at this point, he's like separated from his wife, but then seeing other people on the side, and like, but then telling me I'm the love of his life, and then me having to resuscitate him, bring him back to life. There was just so much that happened, and it was just it seems like it was a lifetime. Like it was so the days drug on, you can't barely move. You feel I never felt depression like that in my life and anxiety and there were so many things. And so once he passed, truly, like, we had conversations. I had seen him that day. We were good. He wanted to, again, we thought in some world we could make things work. He was going to file all the things, right? And all the whatever. And so, but I will say it was a day full of love where he was like, I'm going to do better. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to do whatever, all these things. But at the end of the day, it was his addiction that took him. And that's fine. And that was he wasn't of this world and for this world. And so for me, it was like when that happened, it almost was a release. And like I knew when it happened. I was sitting in my apartment. There was a sign that I like for my high rise, I just like knew meant that he was gone. And then when I drove by his house, it was the darkest. It just didn't look like, and I was like, it's done. Like I chose not to save him anymore. I told him like that last kind of like when I saw him, I just want you to know, like, I won't be there. And I think he knew that then that was like his time to go. So
Mm.
anyway, so after that was all said and done, that was very painful, not being able to go to the funeral, not being able to really have that closure, but did it in my own way, which was special. And, again, it's so easy for people on the outside to be like, why didn't you just leave? You didn't have any kids, you weren't married, all these things, right? But like I used the time that I had with him we prayed, I wrote Bible verses for him. I basically was trying to save him in every way, form or fashion, that
Mm.
I knew how to, right? And just we would just walk. We would just sit together in the park and just take moments and just like sit. And
Mhm.
I don't know, so it was just it was a whirlwind. My parents who were supportive helped me the best that they could, friends that were there, that never judged, like my two girlfriends, like they were amazing. But really, and even some clients who knew, they were just distraught because they had met him. It's just like he had everyone fooled, and it was hard. But again, it was one of those things when it happened, it was a relief because okay, now I can move forward. Like, cause I just genuinely don't think that if he was still alive at that time, I couldn't get out of it. Does that make sense? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah. So anyway, so after that happened, then I started my podcast. So do you have like an outlet? And so it's like, the transformation to trauma at that time was just another stepping stone to help me get closer to feel more empowered. to like, okay,
Mhm.
step away, kind of like, I'm here for you for this, but like, I can't be here for other things. Like, and
Mhm.
so it was good. So, and then the podcast really helped like me to just have that outlet. And then from there, just everything. I bought a house. I moved forward with my life. My business grew. I took all my business just in Nashville. Now I'm training people all over in different states online and virtually. And truly overcoming and adapting that. And meanwhile, while all this is happening, I was injured. So I was taking care of a grown man while I can't even feel my leg. My leg was numb. I couldn't feel it. It was given out for like multiple times a day. I I did chiropractic work and all these things, but it just like nothing was helping. So I put on a lot of weight as well. And because
Mhm.
I had to stop doing movement for a few months. And it wasn't until 2021 when I started to get back on my healthy lifestyle journey. It was just another outlet to like help me and just to feel pretty and just to feel beautiful and to feel,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And be in a safe space where there was no judgment. I didn't feel like there was judgment from you or from Logan. And like that's the biggest thing. I have never judged anyone. And all I wanted in return at that point in my life was to not feel judgment and to feel like I could openly share and to have close people to me trying to protect me or whatever. I get it because you always have to keep some things private, especially when you're going through them. Because as you know, with grief and stuff, you think like, oh, I know for a fact like the sky is blue, right? But then like you're like, wait, but is it orange? But is it green? Like, what like you then start going back and
Relationships
forth. Yeah. Yeah.
relationships have that power to make you think whatever. I mean, because I think the connection is so strong with you and that person. The connection's strong, so you start to believe whatever. You
Right.
start to twist your thoughts and things to fit into that
Yeah.
narrative. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that for you, like that day, I remember when you come in for the shoot, and it was like I felt like it was a release for you as well, just being able to share that. The
Yes.
hard thing for me was then later finding out that he had passed away, and
Mhm.
this had not happened when we did the photo shoot.
Right.
So it's crazy because when I go back and I look at those images, they look as if you it's not like you knew, but you innately, like there was something they're
Oh,
even
yeah.
more fitting.
Yeah. Well, no, he wasn't gonna make it. Like, I knew that. Like, he had already put himself through so much, and he wasn't gonna stop. That's why, again, too, someone can be like, "Why did you stay around?" Whatever. I genuinely, and I don't know if other women who have addict husbands or addict boyfriends or whatever, like, know this feeling, but you kind of know. And I had gotten like intuition from God, like signs from him. And literally, like, I knew that night I had a horrible dream the night before. And I went to my workouts, I did my things the next day, and I just knew. And I was sitting in my apartment, like I said. And like, so it's one of those things where like I knew it was coming. And my whole deal was I had friends who had also lost partners and lost people, right? And they had told me that that it was always in like horrible situations, like it was just like sudden, or they had a fight or whatever. So when I look back at that day when he came to see me at the gym, I was in between clients and whatever, right? And my client was actually running late because he surprised me, and I was like, oh, okay. So I go out there, I run to him, and I was like, hey, like, what's up, you whatever. And he just gave me this beautiful kiss, and it was one of those things where I was just like, breath was taken away. I was like, this is different than, you know what I mean? Like, this is something's, but I just, in that moment, took my breath away. And I was just, kind of laughed and kind of giggled for a second. I was just kind of like, but it just felt like my best friend again and like the real person like I fell in love with. And then I remember running back up to the gym because like, I got to go. I have clients. And then when I went to the gym, like he blew me a kiss when he turned when he left in his truck. And it was just a peaceful moment. And we had talked like a little bit later that day, and he told me all the things like, I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna do this, and I just knew that like he then had like gone and done something, because I think he felt so bad for how much he had hurt me and continually hurt other people around him, and kept in his eyes like messing up. Like he never could, he always felt worthless, he always felt like, whatever. And anyway, and so he sought validation in other things. And that's where, like, now in my journey, I moved forward. I bought a house, and that was something I was scared to do. I, branched out to Nashville. That was another thing I was scared to do at the time. There were so many things that I used all of this to turn the negative into a positive, to get my health back, and was like, you know what? Life is short. Might as well dream big. Let's do a bodybuilding show. Right. And that helped with that, and to get my food under control. And because I just, my thing was, is I wasn't an emotional eater in the sense that I overate. When he was in the hospital and things happened, I stopped eating. I would train all day long and not eat anything. And that's where people get that misconception of, oh, someone puts on weight, well, they must be like gorging themselves all day long. It's like, I wish I could have been eating a ton of stuff that I loved, but it wasn't, it wasn't like that. And so then even to look at now, I have stripped away everything from, my, with like bodybuilding, like the food, and having all that like as a priority, the workouts. Like, I mean, I don't, I've decided to, I truly want to wait till marriage to even engage in sexual activity again. I haven't done that for a long time. So I've stripped that away. I've been sober for over, I think I'm a year and a half. And not sober. I was never an alcoholic. I stopped drinking for the past year and a half. You know what I mean? So it's like I have literally taken everything away that I could use as like something as a high or something to like escape my life and be like,
Mhm.
this is your life. So how do we make this the best, and how do we capitalize on it and do God's work and serve in the way that like that I'm supposed to this whole
Mhm.
time?
Mhm. Oh, it's so beautiful. That's such a beautiful thing, and you are an inspiration. Like I've always known that since I met you. You're very inspirational, and you are a leader. And I think that's awesome. But to hear you say, I've stripped these things away. I'm not looking to numb this pain. I'm looking to push through it. That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's really powerful. I'm older, a lot older than you, but I'm learning this at my age, how to do that and how to not numb with things because life is beautiful and we can numb with things, but then we're
Hmm.
also missing out on the emotion and the good emotion. We can numb from the bad
Right.
emotion, but we're also missing out on the good. So,
Oh, sure. And
yeah.
that's the thing too, is I think a lot of people, I even had someone tell me the other day, and I love him to death, but he said something about like, well, it seems like you're not really like living because you're just so regimented and you're so doing whatever. And I was like, but what is living? And he explained, he was saying stuff about like go to eat out with your friends and go to drink or go, do this or go on dates with guys. Like, and I was like, or go whatever. My whole thing is that at the end of the day, I've done all those things. I have gone out with men that have served me no purpose, that have used me or done, horrible things, obviously in this whole example. But then also, for me, like I don't want to engage in anything like that unless it's with somebody that it's meaningful and it's true and it's real. Then the other part of it is, you know, um, with the alcohol, that was just to numb. Like I remember it was just a random day and I would drink because I was sad because I missed him. And someone listening might be like, wow, how could you miss the narcissist, manipulative person? But there were so many kind moments within that person. I don't believe you're defined by one event in your life. And that was the problem, is that he had a tragic event happen early on in his life and he let it define his entire rest of his way. You know what I mean? And and I wish that someone could have helped him pivot at that time, right? But again, that's not how it happened, and that's not the person I met, and whatever. But it's one of those things where it's like once I dealt with the grief and looked at everything and plainly and was like, okay, you're using this as a crutch, you're using this as a crutch, or whatever. And I looked at it and was like, this is not you. This doesn't serve you. You don't get, you're getting, judgment more so because like, it's almost as if, oh, well, he's out of your life. Like life should be better. Well, yeah, life kind of got better, but it also was really hard. Like, cause then you're at your gym, you're training people and someone gets sent flowers from their partner. Somebody's person drops by to get them a cup of coffee. Like, when he had come to drop you off, like his truck looked the same truck as everywhere around Nashville because it was like a water, what type of a big like white truck or whatever. You see them all the time. So I'd see try to think, you know what I mean? Like your heart drops and you see her in an ambulance. So it's like I got into therapy. I had to try multiple therapists. I found one that I love. I started working out more with Matt, my trainer again. I got a coach that helped me with food, and also like I genuinely just like it wasn't all at one time. It took time, like to put it together. And I think some people think there's a timeline with grief and whatever. And even days like today. Today is a Tuesday that we're recording, and that's when he passed away. And the reason I know that is because I was so hyper focused to get through it and get over it that the next day I trained like 15 clients. Didn't take time to mourn because I found out that night. My mom spent the night with me. And then the next day, I literally trained all day long. And in
Mhm.
what world? You know what I'm saying? And my clients would have understood. But I was like, no, I am a powerful, independent woman and I will not let it, I mean, it was just so many things. And it was like, what are you doing? Is this what you genuinely want to be doing? Or do you want to like go rest? And so I try to take Tuesdays as days for therapeutic. I don't train clients on Tuesday. Like I really try to take it for myself, get myself centered, grounded, and all the things, and ask myself, how is the bodybuilding going? How do you feel? And I honestly, I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose more so now than I did before. And I don't know. It's just it's crazy to think about that it's almost been 3 years. And how sometimes grief just hits you. But now I have coping techniques and things that I do that like would just mentally like practices and things that I tell myself, and it helps me, and therapeutic, techniques. And it's great versus being like, okay, I need to go eat or I need to go drink or I need to go whatever with somebody. And you know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
think that that's such a stigma that we need to really truly step away from.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this thing as well. Like you said something where, people will tell you, like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And that's fine for them. I get this a lot too because I work a
mhm.
lot, and the free time that I do have, I spend with my kids. And
Yep.
so I don't have a lot of free time, and I don't have a very big social life, and I don't have a big social circle. And this is
Yeah.
because my priority right now is my children and my work. And
Right.
people will inflict those opinions on you. But I'm learning as in this journey and through life that why do we take culture and say that it has to be a certain way? If it makes me
Right.
happy to work 16-hour days
Yeah.
and take the other 4 hours and spend with my kids, or the next day
Yes.
to be with my kids all day, like, who's to say that's wrong? And
Correct.
we live in a culture where everyone wants to say, like, this is the norm, but what's the
Mhm.
norm? Who
Right.
cares? If
And
I'm
I never
happy.
right, and I never cared what they thought about before when I was on my journey, but because of grief, and as someone that has gone through this, like, and loss and stuff, it's like you can't even think properly, right? Like, and you can't think like because you're not really yourself in those moments. Like you can try to be your best. I mean, I did move fit a week after he passed. Like that was rough. And then like I did it 5 days after he first went into the hospital. I mean, I was like about to cry leading the last song. And it was just so challenging. But the thing is that I had never cared what anyone thought before. And then going through the grief, it's starting to really, that's when I knew I was getting further away from myself. Cause I'm like, why am I listening to this person? You are, regardless if you're the prime example of a Christian or, this or that or whatever, or if you're somebody that's drinking, getting drunk every day and sleeping around, like it didn't matter. Like no one's opinion of my life, like it should dictate like how I'm going to move forward, when I'm going to start dating, when I'm start doing whatever. But I mean, I will say that like, when I started to slowly get out of that kind of like in the thick of it and find myself again by doing things I loved, by working out again, by getting, my movement in, by doing the podcast, by having a new routine, living in a new space, it's just like all of that has only helped and cleared,
Mhm.
my mind and kept me focused on what I want and helping me to fight for what I want. And I'm excited about all the things to come and everything that, and with you saying like the whole being inspirational, things like that. But the biggest part is that like I just didn't let anything stop me. Like, oh, my leg's not working, but I can go walk, or
Hmm.
oh, the
Hmm.
love of my life or who I thought was my soulmate is a liar and this and that, whatever. And now he's gone. Okay, well, I'm going to move forward with focusing on being my best self again. And then when I'm ready and I want to go on dates or I want to go, meet people and have exciting times, like then that's up to me. And I'm going to go do that and give it my all because I don't want to half ass anything. Like,
No. Right.
you
So let me ask you this with
know.
fitness, because this is a big thing. And obviously I see this with clients, with people I've worked with for years, the last decade. Fitness is an integral part of them healing. How
Yeah.
has fitness, I mean, I hear you say, I had this situation happen the next day, I like buried myself in fitness. But how has that defined or how has it helped you?
How has movement helped me?
Yeah, movement, fitness,
So,
just kind of channeling that
yeah.
energy into fitness.
So here's the thing. Now with my business, like when I go and am going to train 16-hour days or whatever, or 18 clients in a row, I'm choosing to do that. I am putting up boundaries. I am figuring out like what I want to do versus, oh, I have to go do this because I have to make this certain money, or I have to whatever, and really choosing it. And every day that I work out, I get movement in. I tell myself, okay, yeah, this is going to suck, but like, 250 floors on the stairs is no joke, but okay, think about it like this. You can feel your leg today, get your movement in. Right. So I look at that, I turn the negative into a positive. And I remember when I couldn't do that, and how I felt. And so then even today during my workout, I'll say this. I didn't really want to do it. It was upper body. And that's a misconception. I think everyone thinks that, oh, you love every workout and you love, whatever. No, there's days that, it is challenging, especially in this prep. And I'm, getting close down to the wire. And when I'm doing the movements though, it is like a journey for me within that one workout. And some people, may look at it as, oh, you take it so seriously. Here's the thing. Watch my videos, watch my stories. I genuinely am like, I'm going on a roller coaster because I get there. So this is exactly my thought process. I get there, especially if I can't work out in my home gym. I'll do it like at the gym I train out of. Okay. I'll show up. My bumps and my scars are like vamped right now. It's awful. And so I don't feel good. I'm sweaty. I'm gross. And I get in because I've already done my cardio. I get in there. I just want to get it done. And I start doing the movement. And then I start realizing things about myself. And I'm like, dang, like your back doesn't hurt. Or, oh my gosh, your legs feels good. Or, oh man, look at those muscles. Or like, okay, like, all right, let's work. Let's get this. Or I see somebody kind of look at me and do a look and I'm like, maybe they're judging me. Who cares? And then I smile because then I'm like, yes, you feel empowered. And so I go through all of these things. Or if I'm lifting heavy and I'm like, yeah, what's good? Like, this is just what I do. Like, and so it's one of those things where I don't know, it takes me through a journey. So that's where I try to captivate that on my Instagram and be as real and authentic as possible. And even with the music and all of that goes into it. And because it is a fight to stay in it and stay consistent. I believe
Hmm.
that. And when you can show up for yourself, one, that's a beautiful moment. But movement makes me my best self. Like if there's days that I don't work out, I genuinely have to be more kind of like more like grounded because I got to make sure like I'm good. I'm not snapping. I'm not popping off. I'm not whatever. But movement helps with my anxiety. It helps with me just to de-stress, like to just get out of my head. And like by the end of it, I'm like, yeah, you're back to being the bad bitch that you've been or bad, whatever. Like, and so it's just one of those things, like, it really does. It's a night and day difference. That's why I try to tell people, don't talk to me before I've done my fasted cardio and my workout, and then as soon as I'm done, like, what's up? Hey, how's everybody doing? It's like
Yeah.
I become my best self through movement. And I believe that
Yeah.
everyone does. And I believe they become their strongest self, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually.
Yeah. And there's something to that. There's
Mhm.
something to that. Have you ever been to like a Tony Robbins event? Tony Robbins it's chaos. He has everybody like jumping up and down, giving people high fives, like doing all kinds of stuff where the last one that I was in, they turned the air condition way down because it gets so hot because everybody's moving. But it does produce a different type of energy, and I think this is why so many people channel whatever their trauma is, they'll channel it into fitness. And this is
Yeah.
where I was able to be completely blessed by hearing stories, because I work with people one on one for an hour, 2 hours when I'm photographing them, and I get to hear these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because so many people channel things into fitness. And the reason I really bring this up is because when you have people that are listening to the podcast, my whole heart behind the podcast is people find tools and things that's going to help them get through their trauma.
Yeah.
I highly encourage fitness. It does,
Yeah.
it's the hormone boost, the dopamine that goes into your brain. It's like a natural high if you
Yeah.
can work out like this. And
Mm-hmm.
so tell us a little bit, like, have you seen this with your clients?
Oh, 100%. Like, I genuinely watch clients go from being self-sabotaging, insecure, frustrated with life, not even able to look at themselves in the mirror, just like how I was when I was starting out my journey, to these women coming in now wearing sports bra shorts, being like, I don't even care. Like, I'm just here to work. You know what I mean? And being like, hey, I got my movement in when I wasn't with you. Like, learning how to take this in their everyday life. And that's why I don't look at it as being like, oh, I'm a certified personal trainer. Like, that's my credentials, because people out here just becoming personal trainers because they feel like it these days. So I try to explain, like, no, I've been certified. I've been doing this for over a decade, and I've had my business for 6 years. But the way that I train is different. It's not a therapy session, but it has the insight and the tools that are going to make someone see themselves truly for what they are, keep it real, and get rid of the excuses, get rid of the nonsense, strip it away, and genuinely focus on what did they want. Because you know how many people, do you have any moms? And that's why I love that you get your movement in, because I have so many moms reach out to me on Instagram and whatever and be like, okay, well, everyone else first. Well, when everybody else is good, or when my kids go off to college in 20, or 15 years or whatever. I'm like, guys, like, that is literally, I mean, again, it's just that mindset of, oh, when I get to this point, then I'll start this. And that's why I just tell people, roll out of bed and just start today. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
this overwhelming, I got to start, doing 350 floors on the Stairmaster, or I got to have a home gym before I can get my movement in. No, you don't. You can go walk down the cul-de-sac. You can do lunges. You can do, squats. I mean, bearing whatever. But again, we found ways to move during pandemic when there was nothing. I mean, I literally had gone and borrowed a barbell and weights and was deadlifting in my yard, my parents' yard, because I hadn't moved out yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you will
Mm-hmm.
find a way to make it happen. Don't have to be in a gym setting. And that's another thing that I do love training my clients in person, but I love that now I have this opportunity for an online program where they can literally, I tailor it to what they have at their house. Some of them have home gyms, some of them just have very little equipment, some of them it's just body weight. And they're seeing results because they're focusing on the plan, the program, staying consistent, and the accountability that I provide. And that is what is incredible to watch, because again, yes, it's great that people have the access to the gym and lifting and whatever, but when you can change the mindset with very minimal, like, that just shows you right there, like, you can
Mm-hmm.
change your entire life in just one step.
Mm-hmm. I was just getting ready to say mindset, because
Mhm.
if you, the thing is this, like, and what they're getting with you, and this is what is so amazing about what you do, is that you're not just teaching them fitness, or you're not just teaching them movement. I've been to your Move Fit class. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get to participate, I was photographing it, but I've seen how these girls move, and
Mhm.
the movement that they're getting in their bodies. And so I definitely believe that there's power in that. But beyond that is this
Mhm.
idea of being, like, shifting the mindset, because when you can start getting your movement in, getting the
Yep.
right nutrients in your body, and you make a choice to do that. And when you make that choice, it's like a domino effect. You get on a
Yeah.
reward system.
Yes.
So it's beautiful that you're kind of teaching all of those elements of fitness.
Well, thank you. And I do believe that, I think that a lot of people, truthfully, everything you just said right there, that can be very scary to them, especially if they're listening right now. They'd be like, whoa, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Like, it's going to change my whole life. And they don't realize that, like, but it will be, you will benefit from it. And it's going to feel like a hard work. It's going to feel impossible. Like, meal prep. I got to do this. I got to get workout in after I work 18 hours or whatever. Right. But again, that's what I preach all the time, that by making more time for movement, you'll feel better. You'll get through things. You'll be able to de-stress. You'll be able to see things more clearly. On top of that, the food that you program, like, it didn't matter that I was lifting heavy, I was flipping tires. Like, I tell the people all the time, they're like, what did you eat that morning? Or like, whatever, how was your food that day? Because of my nausea and like acid reflux and stuff, I literally had eaten a Gold bar and then flipped that tire and did all the lifting and the 325-pound squat and everything at that competition. Like, I was on nothing. Okay, well, that was not doing my body any justice. Yes, I was still strong enough to be able to do it and win it, but like, if I would have been fueled, shoot, I may not have even struggled with the tire. You know what I'm saying? Like, I may have been doing like 5 flips, like, who knows? But again, I didn't have the proper food coaching with that either. And so then it was just like, okay, let's go drink and eat pizza afterwards because I deserve it. Well, like, and so again, it's getting out of that mindset and and really figuring out, how do we feel for your body? And so now I've actually gotten into mindset coaching and accountability food coaching. So I'm not a dietitian, but to help people pick out better options, even things that they can get away from, right? Like habits that are unhealthy, and work with them daily on that. And so they're sending me that
Mhm.
every day, along with the mindset coaching as well. Cause like with competitors, as you know, it gets dark. Like, I heard things like in real life, but I didn't realize like the putting weight back on intentionally for an improvement season and things like that, like, was going to get to be that intense. And if I truly
Mhm.
didn't love my body before I started this whole journey in terms of bodybuilding, I don't think I would have made it, like,
Mhm.
in every sense of that statement.
Mhm. And just to add to kind of what you said, I'm back up just a little bit. Like this, the whole thing of like the nutrition and the training and all of these things. But you're adding another element, which is I've met a lot of your clients. These are
Mhm.
real women that are doing, they're do managing these things through real life,
Mhm.
and they're not, they're athletes are amazing. I love to photograph athletes. I love working with
Yeah.
them. I love mindset behind them. But
Yep.
not everybody wants to be an athlete. So
This is the
that
everyday real
thing,
body.
yeah, that thing of being scared to step into that, you provide a community of,
Mhm.
so then now you don't have to be scared if you do meal prep because you're learning all these hacks from like what 20 or 30 other women that are also
Mhm.
doing meal prep and making it
Yep.
easy and fun and
Yes.
accountable. You're definitely making an impact, an imprint in Nashville. One last thing I do want to ask you is like, assuming someone's listening that maybe they're struggling with grief because that is something that you've struggled with, or they're in a relationship that they're struggling with, what advice would you have to them or possibly even to your younger self? Um,
Yeah.
and it can be anything from fitness to relationship to anything, but what advice would you have?
Yeah. I definitely would say that no matter how strong you view yourself, no matter what you've gone through before, no matter if you've lost someone else before, like, if it is a person, like your partner and whatever, like, this is a different loss. That's something I didn't realize before, that grief for a grandparent, grief for a partner, grief for a child, like, it's all different. You can't compare, you can't really understand. But I kind of held a lot of resentment because I felt like no one could understand what I was going through, right? Or they didn't know what to say, or anything that anyone did. If someone did send me flowers, it was whatever. But if somebody didn't do this, I was mad. I was finding things to just like be frustrated at at the whole situation, right? And so I wish that I could have told myself, hey, people don't know how to react to this, and you didn't either. Remember? And because I didn't. When people would say someone passed, I was like, oh, like, Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it was so awkward, and so people don't know what to say. They don't know what to do, so I had but again, you don't also feel like you can lean and reach out to people. And so, maybe somebody listening doesn't have a platform or they don't have somewhere where they can ask for help, but I genuinely like, I went to 2 therapists that were like, "You're a lost cause." Like, and I was like, "Okay, great." And so I had to get a new therapist, and she was fantastic. She let me talk for 2 hours on the phone and just blurt out my entire story, didn't judge me, and then we started doing virtual, sessions, and I have been doing it ever since. And that was so again, it did take a couple times, like, and multiple times to find that. So if you're somebody that's struggling, like, grief groups, alive, grief, I don't know what it's called, but to the community, it's like alive is what it's called. But like, if you look up theirs, they have grief groups and sessions every day, multiple times a day. They got in the morning, at night, all female, mixed co-ed, in person, virtual, like, and it's free. So not all of them are free, but like a lot of them are free. Go to that resource, like, find that and like talk to them. And you don't even have to talk. You can turn your camera off and just sit there and listen. But I'm telling you, it helps. And so, if you can do that, or even like, and when I did that, that thing started to just get a lot better for me to have that another outlet. Walks by myself. If you have a dog or you have an animal, like, that's great too. But just like, that was something that was huge. Just like walking and being mindful, and just in taking in everything, and being thankful to be alive, even though I'm going through this hardship.
I totally agree with you. My heart behind everything is like, I want people to know that they're not alone going through these types of things, going through
Yeah,
this type of, it feels like you're alone in the moment, but you're not. And when
yeah,
people can possibly connect and have the same kind of experience that you've had, to hear you
yeah.
say these are the kinds of things I would do is helpful, I believe.
Well, and I will say too, if you are in a group of people who don't support you, or you are around a group of people, or even if it's your work or whatever, you have to get out of that situation. It may hurt people's feelings, but it's not their life. It's yours. So I really that was something too that it was hard for me to let go of some people and like let that just whatever, but at the end of the day it helped me greatly. Not to say that they would never come back into my life or anything, but it's just I'm a different person now than I was during grief, like at the height of it, and then before. It's just you're just continually adapting and overcoming. But I will say, don't be afraid to do that. And I don't care if that's a family member, if that is somebody that is interested in you, like whatever. Like, if you got to like distance yourself from those negative people, really put yourself in groups of people. Like, that's why I loved seeing my clients, because they looked up to me, and it gave me purpose. And it literally kept me going, you
Hmm.
know? And if I wouldn't have had that support, um, it would have been a much harder road. So, someone could look at it and say, okay, well, I don't know of any groups or whatever, but like I said, I had to take the step to find and ask someone that I trusted at the time, "Do you know of any groups of anything like that?" And then that was just a snowball. So, don't
Hmm.
be afraid. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Amber. Like, there's again no judgment with this. And I had a lot of women reach out to me after I shared my story and with the Transformation Through Trauma project, about that they had been in this for some of them 50 years, you know what I'm saying? 30 years. And like, I can't imagine. I dealt with the fight and flight, all the that kind of trauma and everything like that, like, for, I guess, like, about the same time that we dated, like 8 months. So, I had 8 great, amazing months of love and happy and laughter, but it's still kind of like something was off, wasn't there's something off. And then to go from 8 months of just pure hell, right? So it again, it's like, I don't know, it's crazy to look back on. But yeah, I genuinely feel like, having the support and allowing people to support me after, not original not within the first few months for sure, but eventually I was like, I have to let people in, and I keep working on that daily, and being open to that, because you feel lost and you feel like you need to like kind of hide, or you're ashamed, or you're Like, you build up this hard shell, like everyone maybe cross you again or you can't trust anyone. And so, yeah, I don't know. I would say that like it is continually, I keep working on it and being intentional about it every chance I get. And it's only opened up to new exciting experiences. And I will
Mhm.
say real quick, if you're somebody that's listening to this, that's also going through an injury and loss, or you've never done movement before, or whatever it is, I know you're probably, that can be very challenging because that's what I dealt with as well, because I had no outlet. I was agitated, angry all the time. I had nothing. All I could do was journal. And I just wrote letters and then burned them. Wrote letters and wrote letters and burned them. Like, I found other techniques that I had to do. But like I said, I still walked. I still tried to get out in the sun, and it didn't feel like it was the same. But again, I had to wait that out until my injury was okay enough to start doing strength training again. So you really have to listen to your body and start small. I did 3 PT exercises for months, 3, and walks. That's all I could do. And I was somebody that was working out like 6 days a week, lifting over 400 pounds, 500 pounds regularly. You know what I mean? And had to have all of that stripped away. So I get it and I
That's
understand.
grief
But
too. That's grief
yes.
as well. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
having suffering an injury, I had a broken foot last summer and it was, I
Mhm.
felt grief. I mean, not grief in the sense of losing something, but not being able to work out, not losing the activity that you have. And
Yeah.
I,
No,
I
for
want to
sure.
ask you, I know we're getting down. We only have a few minutes left, but I do want to ask you this with discipline, do you find that the more disciplined that you are, the more fulfilled you feel in your life?
Yes, because I genuinely am a person though that loves structure. I love regimen and routine. I've loved that since I was young. Now, in my personal, like Danielle loves to just straight up and chill and watch some TV or watch a movie or whatever. So I do try to have the balance that like certain days, like it just is like that. But after I've gotten my movement and done things for myself, and then I can rest and just relax and things like that. But discipline, it sets you apart from a lot of nonsense, because if you are on the weekend, you're like, man, I got to see my trainer on Monday or I got to work out on Monday. Then Sunday night, you're probably not going out raging with people, right? So that helps us keep away from the nonsense. Or during the week, if you have somebody that's like, oh, hitting you up at 1 a.m., you're like, man, I got my sleep. Like, I have to, like, my phone's on do not disturb. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so again, I believe that sitting in these disciplines, even though they can feel like, man, you're missing out, or this is so challenging, or this is hard, or whatever, man, when you can wake up the next day, especially discipline with food, when I've woken up the next day and had like turned down not having something that was going to throw me off, or someone's like, oh, well, you can eat that food now because you look a certain way or whatever, it was like, no. And I stuck in and sat in that. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful because I felt so empowered, so strong. And those feelings, that's what we're going for, guys. It's not about the, oh, I need to look this way, or I need to be the smallest I can and weigh the least I can, or whatever. It's about the feeling of feeling like your strongest and best self. And when you can really own that, you can start to then see yourself and love yourself throughout, and love your
Mhm,
body throughout. And that is like,
mhm.
I mean, something that most people that I've talked to don't love. And so that I really believe discipline, movement, all of it helps with that.
Yeah, you're able to empower yourself and empower others. And
Mhm.
I agree with you 100%, which is why I asked the question. I knew what your answer was going to be already.
Yeah.
But I also know that for anyone who's on the fence, if
Mhm.
anyone is struggling, I can honestly say like building structure and discipline into your life and doing the healthy things, the things that are good for you, both mentally,
Mhm.
physically, emotionally, like what you said earlier about getting people out of your life if they're negative, like by removing those things and being disciplined enough to stick with that, man, it's revolutionary in your life. I truly believe that it has been in mine. And I think Danny
Yeah.
just said it has been in hers.
Oh, yeah.
So, is there any last things that you want to say before we wrap up? We've said so many great things.
Thank you. Yeah, this was awesome. No, I love it. Like I said, it's all about changing the mindset, but also leaning into turning the negative into a positive. We can't tell you that it's not absolutely horrific and terrible what you're going through, with trauma and with losing someone. That is the worst possible thing that can happen. You know what I'm saying? Being sick and not being able to move, but also like losing someone that you love greatly. And it takes everyone time. And you may see you're going to go through stages of anger and things like that, whenever. So none of us can tell you jump into your movement regimen or jump into whatever. But like when you start to feel ready and you start to feel, that you're wanting to capitalize and find that you can, capitalize on this life, like that is going to be a beautiful moment. And so just take it one step at a time, whatever that looks like. I really, having a coach, having a trainer, having accountability, like having support in that is something that's going to be different than other family members or other people that have known you your whole life. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need an outside source. So you need outside people who don't really know what's, like it, or whatever, that, because again, yeah, you just want to quiet the nonsense around. So I really hope that this could help somebody. And just also too, guys, like just because things like this happen, it can make you feel like, how did I feel stupid about yourself? Or how did I not know? How did I not see it? How did I whatever? And like, I let that go a long time ago because, I didn't want to live in that life. And also I don't want to subject someone else to that. So new partners and things like that, I don't want to assume they're going to cheat, assume they're going to put me through whatever. I don't know. I'm going to take them for what they show me that day and trust my intuition and my God-given intuition, like I should have from day one before. and go from there. And when I say too, guys, I prayed every day because things were so good in my life, like for God to bring me somebody, please bring me somebody, every time I've done that, he's like, all right, here you go. And like, I mean, I'm not saying like he brought me them to punish me. I'm just saying that like I got what I wanted and what I asked for, but I was not, it wasn't, I was not specific on like what that needed to look like. I was just like, anybody, please just bring me anyone. Well, he brought people, they just weren't the best fit, right? And that was Satan then trying to take over and take me off my path. So I will say that sometimes we can think like, oh, like we need to have this, we have to have this, we got to have it, we got to force it and rush on our timeline. And this is not, your path is not like on your time, like it's not your timeline. So I don't know how else to explain it. But
this is like a whole nother podcast episode, so we won't get into this, but
yeah.
There is power in writing down what you want in life and being specific about it. Yes. I've been around a lot of people who attest to this and have gotten what they want in life because they do it. So it's very powerful.
It can be positive or it can be negative. So like be intentional and manifest, positivity and just lean into it. And I really do believe it can change your life, and get you back on the track and the path that you were meant to be on before grief and before loss and before tragedy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Dani, thank you so much for joining today. I'm always happy to have a great conversation with you. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Amber. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Through the Trauma podcast. If you have found value in this episode or believe in the mission behind what we are doing, please subscribe so that you never miss any future episodes. Also, be sure to check out our transformation project at transformationthroughtraumaproject.com, where we help inspirational stories get heard on a larger scale through multiple platforms. If you know someone who can benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Until next time.